Hey guys, Skyson Freeman here. Bit of a late day today on this video. Only gonna be doing one video today. There's a reason why it's late. I've not been feeling so great, but I'll be getting into that in tomorrow's video or videos. And I'll sort of explain why and what's going on. But besides all that, let's get over that. Let's talk about Marvel. And their Marvel Studios and their San Diego Comic-Con appearance and a recap on that. So, first thing I want to talk about, Avengers Endgame is now the highest grossing film of all time. That is pretty damn incredible. I didn't think it was going to catch Avatar after a while, but apparently it just snuck over that line, whatever. And it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a little weird, Avatar's no longer number one, but it's cool, I mean, I assumed that one of these movies was going to do it, and Avengers Endgame seems like the most appropriate one to do it with. So pretty happy for them. I'm sure they're happy. But pretty cool news to start out with, and all that. So first thing they talk about is the Eternals. Now, the Eternals I'm actually not too familiar with, but the cast is pretty good. You got Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek, Kumail Nanjiani, and I'm interested to see how this turns out, what it's going to be. I believe it's is it one of the first ones coming out? Oh, come to theaters November 6, 2020. So not very long, next year. Next, talking about the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. Now, this is something I'm actually pretty excited for because of how, of course, Captain America's story ends in Endgame, and I just want to see where it goes from there. I want to see what they do with Sam Wilson. I'm not sure if in the logo, there's the Captain America shield, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm wondering if they're going to, incorporate that somehow, if Sam Wilson drops the Falcon name sort of at the end, becomes the next Captain America, and continues that on, kind of like in the comics. I believe, which comic was Sam Wilson Captain America? Was that more recent? I can't remember. I know Bucky was, but in the MCU, they're not going to make Bucky Captain America. He's just going to be the Winter Soldier, which is fine. So, I'm interested to see how that goes. I'm hoping it's more of like a spy thriller, kind of a lot more in line with how Captain America Winter Soldier was. One of the best MCU movies, I'm pretty sure everyone agrees. Baron Zemo's coming back. I believe he's going to have his mask and everything, so it's going to be pretty cool. I can't wait to see how that turns out. Next up, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Interesting, didn't see that coming. I'm interested to see how this is going to turn out. I'm not really familiar with the Shang-Chi character, I have to admit. They're going to be bringing in the real Mandarin, not Iron Man 3's Mandarin, which I know pissed off a lot of people. But this looks interesting, and can't wait to see how this turns out. February 12th, 2021, so a little bit further away. WandaVision. Now, this sounds very interesting, because of course we all know Vision's gone, and Scarlet Witch is basically by herself now. I'm not exactly sure how they're gonna go about this. I'm assuming this takes place after Endgame, so I'm not sure how Vision's gonna play into this. But it sounds interesting. Scarlet Witch is a great character. Really enjoyed her in these movies since Iron Man 2, Avengers, Age of Ultron, and her relationship with Hawkeye especially, I think, is really cool. And I like how they kind of touch on that in Endgame a little bit. We'll get to Hawkeye in a little bit here, but WandaVision sounds pretty neat. I just can't believe how much stuff they announced here. Oh, and of course the Loki series. We've known about this for a while. I mean, we've known about these studio series for a while now, but the Loki series, of course, the only way for it to happen is if it's the the Loki that escapes from the past sequence in Endgame. So interesting to see where this goes. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to do it. Is he going to be like a time traveler, dimension traveler, and he just kind of causes mischief here and there? And it'd be interesting to see how it plays. Maybe it plays into like some alternate events or something like that, and that'd be kind of neat. But alternate events, actually, we'll get to that later. But it's cool to see Tom Hiddleston back. I know that a lot of people like Loki. I never really understood all the hype for him. He's a cool character. He's a cool, fun villain. But I never latched onto him as like, oh man, he's a great villain. Like, he was a great villain for Thor, but as for the overall Avengers, I felt like they kind of shoehorned him in a little bit to be bigger than he was. But he does have presence to him. He does have he does have a commanding, what do you call it, like, presence on screen whenever he's on, like, so I mean, I guess, but I mean, it's gonna be cool to see him in his own show, I think, divorced from the whole MCU as a whole. So we'll see. But next, this one I'm really excited for, just because of what it sounds like. Okay, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It's gonna be with Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch, and it apparently will connect with the Disney Plus WandaVision series. This sounds awesome. Doctor Strange is one of my favorite MCU movies. It was one of the most, after a while they kind of started to feel samey, but when Doctor Strange came out, it kind of gave me the same feeling I had when I saw Iron Man, where, it was kind of like, it felt, I mean, even though it was obviously in the MCU as a whole, it still had its own identity and its own sort of starting point. You got to really know Doctor Strange, and you started to, you understood his story. It built up. There was the villain, and it was, it was interesting, and he had that origin that just felt kind of like it naturally progressed. And it just felt really, weirdly enough, it felt really grounded in the sense that it wasn't so like all over the place, but not like realistically, but very mystically, in a very different way than Iron Man was, but also very similar to how Iron Man was. It's hard to explain, but yeah, Doctor Strange is a really good one. And multiverse, I mean, what does that mean? All right, multiverse. Are we actually talking about the multiverse? Because after Spider-Man Far From Home, like, totally gave us blue balls with the multiverse, maybe, if the end credit scene is anything to go by, and maybe there's implications of that, I don't know. But if they're bringing in multiverse in the title, I mean, there's got to actually be a multiverse, and I really want to see how this plays out, and what exactly they mean by multiverse. 'Cause, I mean, it could mean a couple different things, but however they execute it will be really interesting to see. And man, that comes out May of 2021. That's so far away. Apparently, it's also going to be the first, they said, like, scary Marvel film, or like a horror Marvel film. So I don't even know what that means, but releasing it in May, I don't know, it seems a bit weird. Maybe it has to release in May for whatever reason. But then we're getting into now the What If series, and this will be really cool. Jeffrey Wright as the voice of the Watcher. Many actors from the MCU will reprise their roles, and basically they're just going to go over and do different alternate tellings and alternate scenarios and things like that. So that'll be really cool to see. I know that people have been wanting to see something like this, but in the actual MCU, it wouldn't really make sense. It would probably feel weird. And actually being able to do it in live action wouldn't work because actors' ages and things like that, it would just be all over the place. So doing it animated makes sense, but it says present alternate realities to the Marvel Universe. Now, if that's the case, then it's not really canon with the MCU, but is it technically canon with the MCU? Like, I don't know what that means. Maybe not. I don't know. But I'm actually, this is one of the things I'm most excited for because I love little random weird things like that. I know Star Wars did a comic series where they would have like these what if stories, like what if the Death Star didn't blow up and things like that. And I've actually got to get more of those comics. They're pretty cool. But I'm really interested to see how this goes. Hawkeye. Fuck yes, finally. Hawkeye is awesome. Hawkeye is one of my favorite characters in the MCU. Probably my favorite is in terms of like relatability and just who I connected with the most in the movies. Mainly because he's just a guy who's just, you know, trying to live his life. You know, after a while, he's just a regular old guy. And I feel like that's very underrated. I don't know why Hawkeye doesn't get more love, but I'm really interested to see this. Apparently, I guess he's going to be like training the next person to like take over his place. Kate Bishop is the actress who's going to be tagging along with him. So I'm interested to see how this plays out and exactly how they're going to take Hawkeye. I believe this is going to be after Endgame. If I had to assume, I can't imagine it would be before, or even during the 5-year period where he's Ronin. That doesn't really make too much sense to me. But now we're getting into Thor: Love and Thunder, which is strange. I like the logo of it though. It's very like something I'd see on like a, you know, an old vinyl album from like the 70s or something like that, like some kind of, you know, metal album or something. It's really cool. Or, you know, something similar to that. It's, you know, it's got that aesthetic to it. The colors are really nice too. But like we said, Taika Waititi's coming back. And interestingly enough, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 did not get a release date, or I don't even think it was really talked about. I think it's just kind of assumed it's coming or it's happening. But this is coming out November 5th, 2021. So if it's before Guardians 3, I don't know how Thor himself is going to play into it unless unless the Guardians show up in Thor: Love and Thunder. That's going to be interesting. But let's see. Phyllis Home for Thor: return to MCU. Natalie Portman will return. All right, she's returning after she was like, I don't want to be in these fucking movies because they're stupid, dumb comic book movies. Then they become highest grossing film of all time, make a shit zillion dollars. She goes, oh shit, maybe I'll come back on. And now she's going to be Jane Foster, female Thor, which, okay. I mean, I thought they were kind of going, not necessarily going that route with Valkyrie to become the female Thor, but like I thought it was going to be like, she just kind of took over what Thor's role was, and that was going to be kind of how they dealt with that whole thing. But I guess, no, they're bringing in Natalie Portman to be the female Thor, but does that make Thor unworthy? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where this goes, but interesting. The story for that, I'm not exactly sure how that's gonna play out, but we got, you know, a couple years, more than a couple years actually. Damn, that's gonna be quite far off. And of course we finished this off. Well, not finish it off, but we're getting to stuff we already know about. Black Widow, which I'm assuming, of course, is going to be before Endgame and Infinity War. This is going to be, I believe, the first one out of the gate, May 1st, 2020. That sounds about right. And, yeah, Black Widow, probably going to be a, you know, action film, kind of John Wick style, you know, kind of stuff I had to imagine. A lot like what we saw of her in Iron Man 2 and, you know, all her other stuff since then. Very, very much a physical action, physical hand-to-hand combat, things like that. Nothing really too crazy. Probably a spy thriller, kind of like Winter Soldier and the Winter Soldier and Falcon series is coming out as well. So, who knows? But now, oh my god. Fucking Blade. So they're bringing Blade into the MCU with Mahershala Ali. This is gonna be fucking awesome. Oh my god. I couldn't believe it when they actually announced this, that they actually were bringing Blade into the MCU. Like, I thought they would save that for maybe like, well, I was gonna say maybe Netflix or something like that, but I'll get to that because, I mean, it's a violent kind of property, something that was more serious. I mean, at least in the Wesley Snipes film, those are R-rated films. At least I believe the first one was. I don't know about Blade Trinity. I never saw Blade Trinity. But Mahershala Ali is great casting. Now, that being said, speaking of Netflix and Mahershala Ali, he was in Luke Cage. So, is that going to decanonize the Marvel Netflix shows? I mean, I really don't mind all that much. I don't really care for those shows. I've tried watching them, and I just can't get into them, like, at all. They're so... God, they just bore me to death. I've tried so hard going, this is part of the MCU canon, so I kind of want to see where this goes, and it's just... God, I cannot get into those shows at all. So, I mean, if that's the case, that's fine with me. Bring in a new Daredevil, bring in a new Luke Cage, just, go for it. Don't even bother with trying to connect it to the the MCU fucking Netflix thing. Just don't even bother with that at this point. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how they go with Blade. I know some people are concerned they're gonna water it down. I don't know, maybe, but I guess we'll see. And I'm trying to think. I believe they mentioned that Fantastic Four and the X-Men are in somewhat stages of development. Fantastic Four is probably going to come out first, if I had to imagine. But X-Men, Kevin Feige said they're doing something different with X-Men, or their approach to it's going to be different. I'm thinking maybe they're going to try to do either standalone films, or they're going to introduce characters maybe one by one in pre-existing MCU films, and then somehow get them to team up for the whole X-Men thing. And I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play along. I'm not sure if the multiverse aspect is going to somehow play into that. And I don't even know how Deadpool is going to play into all this, but we'll see. I mean, I imagine Deadpool is going to make himself fit in the MCU one way or another. Like, they're probably not going to acknowledge that he's in the MCU, except for in his own movies where he's like, yeah, I'm in the MCU now. I'm technically owned by Disney. They don't want me in there, but fuck it. And then, he goes in and he just, maybe takes selfies of himself at, like, some battles taking place during the movies. Like, oh, here I was here. I mean, they're not going to acknowledge me, but I was here, or just, typical Deadpool kind of shit. I think that's probably how he's going to tie into the MCU, just so they can keep his movies separate. And maybe they'll bring him in every now and then as like a cameo or something, just to kind of move things along. Or if he's in like a team-up film or something like that, he'll come in and use the only F word and then, make an acknowledgement about it, and then, leave or something like that or whatever. Honestly, Deadpool would be a really good way to introduce a lot of the stuff that, the audience just kind of has to accept. It's like, mutants? Where did mutants come from? And it's like, the long answer is probably something really complicated that the writers came up with. Short answer is that Disney owns them now, or something like that. It would be a really funny way to kind of, get everyone on board. It works. It's Deadpool. Everyone gets it. That kind of stuff. But, what I'm shocked about mostly is the release dates. Like, all of this is 2020 to 2021. And it's like the entire Phase 4 is going to be in that span of 2 years. So, I mean, that's kind of a lot. But they're not stopping. It's crazy. I'm wondering if they're... Well, what's interesting is a lot of this doesn't really... it does connect to the previous MCU thing, but it feels like it's starting to have its own identity now, divorced from all the old stuff. We've got Thor, we have Hawkeye, we have Black Widow, Doctor Strange, Loki, Scarlet Witch with, WandaVision, all this kind of stuff. But... and Falcon's Winter Soldier, but I think Eternals is going to help set the, set some stuff up because, that's coming late November 2020, or early November 2020, I should say. But I think Eternals is probably going to establish a certain tone. Shang-Chi, depending on how they play that whole, depending on how they play that movie, I'm interested to see how they kind of spin that off into other stuff, because, they use certain movies to start out and then piggyback off those to introduce new elements and characters and things like that. So, yeah, that's really all I gotta say about that. I know this is kind of a long video, but guess it makes sense. I'm only making this one video today. Again, not feeling too great, but I'll get to that tomorrow. But just wanted to kind of go over this in a basic kind of just a recap. I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this goes, and yeah, I can't wait. And Disney Plus cannot get here fast enough. I swear. I really can't wait for all that. So, Eternals. I'm really interested to see where that's going to go, because I have no expectations about the Eternals. Everything else I kind of already have like an idea about. But anyway, guys, that's really all I got to say about Marvel Studios showing at the at San Diego Comic-Con. Hope you guys enjoyed. Check the links down below. Subscribe, like, comment down below. What do you think about all this? What do you think about the casting news? What do you think about the film news in general? What do you think about the news that they finally surpassed Avatar as the #1 film of all time? Leave your comments down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. And yeah, guys, later.